Hello, hello, buongiorno a tutti. Sono qui a casa. I'm here at home, and while I was taking a nice picture uh, 2 or 3 hours ago outside and the sun was shining, now it is really gray and dark, and I even had to switch on the light because it turned out to be like not a thunderstorm, but it's really tough raining and it is very dark outside. Wouldn't expect something like this at 4 o'clock, and I thought that the weather forecast was nice weather, but anyhow, um, it's okay, and I'm glad it we are here safe at home. And this is very likely the last streaming a video from home, let's say, from the lockdown period, because next Monday I'm going back to my workshop, and I'm very happy to go back to my workshop. It's for the first time in my life since I'm a violin maker over 35 years now that I couldn't go into my workshop. It's something that is something a very new experience for me, and well, I had my great pleasure doing here my home videos and doing these kind of things. I was reflecting a lot. I was writing a lot. I was reading a lot, getting courses online, studying and opening up and thinking of how the future could be and things like this. And certainly a lot of these things which I elaborated in these 2 months, I will probably start already on Monday putting them in reality. But first of all, we have to set up the workshop in a way that it is safe. And so I will elaborate as well a system to get everything a little bit more uh, virus free for sure. And this is will take a little bit of my time. Um, let's go straight to our point. This today, this transmission, we have a little bit of time frame of exactly 1 hour because my wife then will be online as well today at 5 o'clock, I think. So we're just a little bit under the time pressure. I made this here now. You can make your questions and everything regarding this matter, or if you're a musician and you're facing some other problems at home, then we will make this today here. For violin makers, we make it then on Monday always, and there we will always also make some new things from next week on. And I'm elaborating here a little bit something because I'm a violin maker and not a YouTuber, so even so, I'm getting better and better here. But we have to work a little bit on a few things here. Um, so today, our subject is the fingerboard we made before the tuning, the bridge, and if you have some questions regarding this matter, just ask or today, or you can also write underneath the other videos from the last time, and I will answer you right on that. Um, regarding the fingerboard, actually, I was thinking, oh, damn, what I'm going to tell them, what can they solve actually on the fingerboard? And it is actually not this easy. Now, before we get into the problems and this is actually more the question that as a musician you have to be able to locate and to find what is actually the problem, because very often you are facing problems and you don't know what is causing your problem right now. And that's why I try to make things clear and separated so you can a little bit sort out where is it, okay? It's a little bit like a mechanic. If you actually see that they just go from one thing to the next, and then you have a question, you have two possibilities or three or four, and then they just sort out, and you have to do the same thing actually now at home with your instrument, that you have to understand what's the problem. And to make this understand, actually, a baroque neck was much shorter than now the fingerboard. Nowadays, the neck is now longer, but the fingerboard is also longer. And approximately, you could say it's 5/6 of the string length. So when you have now a violin, which is 32.8 centimeters long, which is here I have a ruler. Without glasses, I don't see anything. Oh, here I can see it from 0 to 30. And then you have here a little bit more and here. So this is probably the string length. And now a fingerboard is long from here to here, 27. Okay, so it's just a little bit. So it's, if you divide it in 6 parts, you take 5 of those, this is your fingerboard, okay? 27 centimeters. This is the length. And we soon come back to this one, because I think it would be great if you take once a ruler in your house and you measure how long is your fingerboard. This is one thing. And then certainly you have the close to the scroll, to the peg box, the size of your fingerboard, and which is approximately 24 millimeters. And at the lower end, it's approximately, let's say 42, but actually it should be a little bit smaller. 41.5 would be the ideal measurement, what I consider the ideal measurement, which doesn't mean that now your violin, if it is 40 or if it's 43 or 44, is not a violin fingerboard. But people, not everybody takes it this serious how I take measurements serious. Now, the first thing is that the fingerboard itself is also vibrating. With every tone you are making, the whole instrument starts vibrating via the string to the bridge. Then the bridge is bouncing around the sound post, you know, with one feet, and then the space bar, and everything starts to vibrate. The neck itself, the scroll, and even the fingerboard, especially the part which is overlapping towards the bridge, overlapping the top, okay? And that part is vibrating. And so it's very important that underneath it is carved, but not too much, so that when you go into a higher position that you don't bend it down, okay? So it has to be strong, it has to be light in order that it can vibrate, but it shouldn't be too much and it shouldn't be too little. Many times you see fingerboards which they didn't even touch it at all. It is too heavy and it's stiff, and this is blocking a little bit the vibration of your instrument. Now, when I invite you to take a ruler like this one here can't be very precise. It's plastic, and then it's like this, so it might be in a sunny day longer, in a cold, freezing winter day shorter. But anyhow, you should take once the time and measure your fingerboard, and you measure it exactly where the string starts after the nut, just where it is freely vibrating. That's the fingerboard. The other black stuff is the upper nut and doesn't take part of the fingerboard, okay? And measuring this size of the fingerboard on a violin should be 27 centimeters. And you will see that very often your fingerboard is even longer than this. And it shouldn't be longer, because since it is vibrating, if it is longer, there's more material which has to go up and down quick. And this is certainly not really easy. It's a little bit like running a marathon, putting a 2-liter bottle of water on your backside, okay? So knowing that your fingerboard is long, in case you are not happy with your sound, now I have to laugh because my Elena is walking here back on the side here. You don't see her. On all four, she is passing by here. Okay, so this is just this is the la chica, né? Amore, alzati. Sì, ti ho visto il tuo culo. Anyhow, it's fine. Yeah, but we appreciate it. And here on this side here, you even have the cat here, you know. I have to show you here. The cat is also here looking very much here. Ciao, Nerino. Eh? Eh? doesn't want to look in the camera. He's not a YouTuber. Okay, sorry. Okay, so knowing that the fingerboard is long could be that your fingerboard, which has just been used as it came in a raw piece from the, let's call him a maker who put this fingerboard on your instrument, he didn't take care. He just took it for granted that this is the right size of the fingerboard. And you would say, this doesn't happen too often. On cellos, this happens so often that, let's say, on a cello, a fingerboard should be 56, I think. And it is far too much. Yeah. I hope it is 56 and not 58, but I think it is 50. Hold on, no, it has to be 58 centimeters, and it is very often 59.5, okay? So much material, and you just have to take it off, okay? So I just take off the strings, and I just cut it with a Japanese saw and do zuki down. Even on a violin fingerboard, the better you cut it down for a maker, the better it becomes. And then you have to clean it. It takes a lot of time. It's not this easy, but makes a big and huge difference. Okay. Your instrument, if it is like 1.5 millimeter, you will be surprised how the sound will go up. Okay. If it is underneath, even that you have to take out the material, then you certainly have to take it off, and you have to carve it up also. And so this is certainly a fundamental. Next thing, which I don't want to go in too much into how I make a fingerboard, but it should be still for a musician that he can understand. Very often people think that the neck is too large, and they measure it, and then they discover that it is like 1/2 millimeter or even 1 millimeter larger than the other fingerboard, which is smaller. But it could also be that your fingerboard is even more narrow and feels larger. And this is because the fingerboard is correct, but the shape of the neck is wrong. So you have to sort out what a thin, skinny fingerboard still could give you the impression of having a large fingerboard, but it is not because of the fingerboard, but because of a wrong shape of the neck. Okay. You just have to imagine, if you cut your neck straight through, you get a certain shape, how it should be. And if it is very thick like this, then you have the impression that it is large, while if it is like this, it is more skinny. But it doesn't mean that it has to be V shape. Yeah, but if you just imagine you're playing like this, and here's the E string, it should be a little bit more inside the curve of the neck than on the other side, where it has to be, where the thumb is just attaching next to it. Okay. On a cello and a double bass, it's a completely different neck shape, because you play it completely different. You play it that you touch with the thumb on the other side where you play the notes. So the neck of a cello and of a double bass should be rather round, just like a stick you're sweeping your ground. Okay, really, okay, completely different. Sometimes you see a cello with a V shape or something, is no good and is uncomfortable. So, and musicians believe that the problem is the fingerboard, but it is the neck. Okay, so you have to understand that measuring your fingerboard once is very important to understand if the problem of your comfort of your neck is caused by the fingerboard, or um, if it is caused by the neck. Okay. Um, this is one thing. And then we have another issue on the fingerboard itself. Let's say it's really comfortable, everything nice, but we had also somebody asking for this, that there is a buzz. a buzz on the G string. Let's say we call it now the G string, okay? But it could also be that it's like the third finger on the A string is creating a strange sound or something, okay? So then I would invite you, let's say this is your fingerboard and you're playing here, no? And it doesn't feel right. Then take the violin, scroll is here, body is down here, and then take it like this, and then look along the fingerboard, okay? And if you look along the fingerboard, which is round like this, black, shiny, I hope it is all shiny, and otherwise you see some dirt, or you even can see underneath the strings that it is slightly consumed or something, then you know, okay, you have to go to the violin maker and you have to get it. They call it in English to shoot the fingerboard. I don't like shooting the fingerboard because that gives the impression to the musician that we just you're shooting here and then it's done. There doesn't pop from any plane in the world just like a shoot a new fingerboard. That takes a lot of time to do it well. You can make it very quick somehow, passing by some sandpaper or some plane and then some files and whatever. But actually, what I want make you understand, what you have to look very careful is that you have to train you as a musician. You have to know that, and you have to train your eye that your fingerboard has to be slightly hollow like this. Okay, and if there is in middle a bump inside, all the notes before this bump and then the string will cause a buzz. So you have to train your eye looking along the fingerboard. Now, if you have just now your violin, okay, get started and look along it, and then maybe you see, this note I don't like how it sounds, and then you should look along, and then you will maybe see a tiny heel on it, and the note you're complaining is just right before towards the back box. Then you know that there is something which has not been done well. The fingerboard is a trap because it's black, and by being so black, it's easy to make something out of wood nicely finished, and then people go into details and they do everything, whatever. The tiny spot is great, but it is all together. It has to be round like this, and it has to be hollow. On the E string, a little bit less than on the G string. So it is not a very easy to describe geometrical shape. It seems to be very easy, and you cannot buy a raw fingerboard from somewhere from India or from Madagascar or whatever, and then just slap it on the violin and then put on the strings. It's no good, okay? You have to dedicate a lot of time to make a great fingerboard that takes you, I would say a nice fingerboard for a violin takes me at least 2-3 hours, okay? And if you are now the superman in violin making, doing it in 10 minutes, great for you. If you put me a gun and I have to make it now quick. I also remember that I had to make a double bass fingerboard once under extreme time pressure. And then I could make it maybe, I think I was in 1.5 hours, but that was just like gym, you know. Um, and it's never good to work like this under time pressure. Never. You cannot go into details in a certain way. So you as a musician, you have to train your eye to see that there is no bump and that this is very irregularly hollow, slightly. This slightly, you can also always with your ruler, this one here is now very soft, and I hope you have maybe not such a soft one. But I just saw it at the supermarket and I thought it's nice to talk with this one just for the fingerboard. Bought it yesterday, €1.29. But if you have a stiff one, you can double check if your instrument, your fingerboard is hollow, because this is 30 centimeters. and the violin string is 32.8. So you can easily, between the strings, you put this one, you attach it on the E string, you go down, and then you look where it touches, and it should touch at the very beginning of the where the upper nut is, and at the very end. And in between, there should be slightly a hole, slightly, okay? This is not straight. A fingerboard should not be straight. If it is straight, it would make an ugly noise on every note you're playing, okay? Remember that. And this slightly hollow, if you look at against the light, you have to turn it since the fingerboard is a little bit round, so you have to turn it. And then you can see how the light in the middle, exactly on the middle of the fingerboard, there should be the most light. And then less, 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 up to the very last point, and less, less, less. If there's in between somewhere a point where it's stopping, touching, then you know you have a bump which has to be adjusted. And you can sign it even with a pencil, okay? And then you go to the next string, to the A string, to the D string, to the G string, and you can figure out just exactly where there are some spots which have to be taken away. Now, you at home, you won't be able to adjust it. But in case you are facing this kind of problems, at least only the fact that you know that this is causing the problem on this or this note, or that you're not able to hold it like this or like that, helps you already to understand. And once you know it, what it is, it's easier to live with this, okay? And then once the lockdown is over, you search the maker, you go there and you say, can you take me away this? It's just not creating great sound. Now, what can you do now at home in order that you can solve this problem, that it doesn't buzz anymore? Well, the easiest thing is, it's because the strings are very close to the fingerboard, so you can raise the strings, or on the bridge, which I think is a little bit difficult for you. But on the upper nut, you could just low down a little bit the string, take it out of those notches of the upper nut, and you put a little bit of paper between the upper nut and the string, okay? And it could help that it's raising a little bit the string, and it's helping you to make it a little bit better. But on the bridge, certainly, if you make it, it would also, if you on both sides, you lift it a little bit, it would help you a little bit, okay? But you will not be able to adjust the fingerboard by yourself, except you have somebody in your family who is doing modelism and RC radio controlled models and all these tools, and then you can maybe ask if they can help you solve it. But I would probably stay a little bit away, okay? But if you can sign it exactly where the bumps are, and then just take all these signs away, it could work out a little bit. Next thing, certainly, what is also ugly, now we're talking really on very lousy instruments. If you take your instrument in your hand and you feel the fingerboard on your neck on the side, that is a clear sign that it is not glued on very well, that there is a small hole or something. And then you have to take a little bit, take your glasses and look carefully what is here. This one, or the shape of the neck doesn't include the flanks of the fingerboard, let's say, and you feel it a little bit. It's just, it's just like if you have like a fingernail and there is something chipping off. It's no fun to keep a violin the whole day in your hand if you feel these things. Yeah, then maybe you can find something like a file for your fingernails, and you can try to pass a little bit, and with a little bit of a rag and some olive oil from the kitchen, you can just pass in order to make it a little bit smoother. And once the maker is open, then you go in and say, hey, come on, you have to adjust me this neck with the fingerboard, okay? Overall, I hope this is somehow a little bit a good uh, way of what kind of problems you can face. If your fingerboard, what else could also be a problem? If, let's say, some people complain for years that the sides are too sharp. uh, it shouldn't hurt. You shouldn't actually recognize that there is a edge, okay? But still, it could be that on the E string, people even how could I say the right word, appreciate to feel a little bit the edge on the E string side or the A side on the viola or the A on the cello, um, because this gives them a little bit the security that they won't slip off, okay? But nothing exaggerated. And but if you complain and you don't like it, you have to get it adjusted. Now, I don't want to say that now you have to go to the kitchen uh, and take a nice knife for cutting onions, and then you just slide over it and you can shape it your well. But I don't give you this nice advice, but in serious lockdown situations, I probably would even go to this kind of tragic steps in adjusting me the instrument, because I couldn't live with something which is just hurting my fingers and my hands. It's made for you, and you have to be happy, and there's no reason to suffer. Okay. So now I'm going to read now your questions, because I saw there are so many questions coming in today. You are not so many, 24 only, but 6 thumbs up. That's great. And now I'm going to see your questions, and let me see if there is something. The violinist, hello, I've seen you already. The violinist, what should the cello fingerboard look like? It's the same. It's actually the same question like the violin fingerboard. Certainly, you have on the cello fingerboard also the chance that you have the C flat area along the C string, which means that it is covering approximately a third of the fingerboard. Okay, so if the fingerboard now on the lower part is 64, is something reasonable size for a cello fingerboard, then the largest part should cover 22 millimeters. That's what I would suggest, okay? And this is measured from looking up and not like it is inclined, okay? And then in the upper part, the fingerboard on the cello is 32 millimeters, and the upper part is like 10, 11, more or less. Now, if you have this C flat area, it's very nice, at least for me as a maker, I love to make it with this C flat area, it's C-Kante in German. But it should be, if it's done very well, you should even take off this edge, which is so precise, because otherwise it's disturbing. And if it's done all properly, you shouldn't actually feel any difference between a fingerboard with or without it, okay? Beside that, the round cello fingerboard is not like on the violin a part of a circle, but it is a asymmetric round shape, which means that towards the C string, it becomes more flat, and the rest is another curve, okay? So it seems somehow a little bit not so super precise and geometric round area like it is on a violin. The viola as well is a little bit like the cello fingerboard. That means that on the C string on the viola, it is a little bit more flat. Yeah? Um, if when you design it and you draw it, the reason is that your strings, the deeper strings are bigger and the other ones are thinner, and then you just start to design and you see, and then it's quite an obvious shape. But we in violin making, we get these molds already. You can buy them. I saw it even on this for Americans at this international violin. They have a lot of tools, and they even have these shapes and these models, and you can get those. But it's nothing you, as a musician, you don't have to go and search it. Um, And then certainly, I think it's very important from the length of the fingerboard, or you have it on the upper side slightly hollow, but also the flanks, I make it slightly hollow in order that when you play that you don't have this impression that you have like a cone in your hand and you don't want it that happy, that large. You want to feel it like if you can play and you don't feel that you have a neck which is like this, a V shape, which is becoming larger to the bridge, then it's nicely shaped. So, um, Martin, hello Edgar, hello back again here. Nina Rose, who is this? Is it my daughter? I guess so. Cannot wait to see you back at the workbench. Me too, boys. Girls, yes. Marielle Joshua, she took away the message. Probably I said already what I wanted to say. No, no, she wrote down here. Hello, Mr. Edgar. How would I know if my fingerboard is made of quality or not? Thanks in advance. If all that, what I explained before, all is correct, and you don't think about fingerboard and it's all nice and every tone you're playing is properly nice and great and crunchy and perfect and precise, and you don't complain and you don't feel and you are never thinking about fingerboard, and only because Edgar is now talking about fingerboard, then your fingerboard is great. Okay, then Basim, hello Edgar, what do you think about the new fine tuner pegs? They can do fine tuning without the need for any fine tuners on the tailpiece. Is it good idea? I think it is a good idea. The first time I saw it, it was about, I think, 99 or 2000 in the United States, the peg heads. I don't know if they're still around. Then Wittner from Germany, they have also these pegs. The only thing that is slightly ugly, but I talked with Mr. Wittner even myself because I needed them for a 5-string cello, and I put them inside. And then I also put them on a few instruments of a musician in Florida who is playing outside very often, and he didn't want to have more problems. It's nice because it's like electric guitar. You just twist 5 times, and then the peg inside where the string is on is just turning once. So you can tune without any pushing, nothing. No complaints anymore. It's just a little bit. This plastic is what I don't like, and the peg itself is a little not so nice to touch. It would be nice to have that same mechanism, but the peg then itself still out of wood. That would be just the perfect combination. That was with the peg heads that was possible. I don't know. You have to search for them if they are still available. But there is inside the shaft of the peg, there's a pretty complicated mechanism inside. So I think it's a good idea, and it works great. Circuits and strings to Mr. Stern. Good news, we're going back to school on August. Wow, I'm happy. Where are you coming from? Because I don't know where you're going to back to school. At least in Italy, they're talking about that in September, there will be a few will go back to school, but not all students, and probably they will divide it, and then they make school not only in the morning, but in the morning and in the afternoon, and not like this, huh? I don't know. Nobody knows exactly how it will go. Now we're opening up on Monday, and then I will see the disaster, and the numbers here. We're still on 200-300 people dying every day here in Italy. So we are far away of good news, and I don't want to make good news here announcing them yet. Hello from Egypt, Islam. I'm happy, Magdi. Hello from Egypt. This is nice, huh? More and more people from Egypt are writing and following me. This is nice. Marielle, hello, Mr. Edgar. I answered this one already. Robert Hannett, do you ever sell just the fingerboard? I can also sell the fingerboard. This was also an idea that I would make a nice fingerboard and then you can put it on. But the problem very likely is that my fingerboard, if you put it on your neck, then you have to adjust it. I don't know if you're still making your instrument and then you get my fingerboard, then you're certainly a lucky boy. But if it's for a ready instrument, I don't know if this is the right thing, so the right way. But I sell also the fingerboard. I can do it all, the upper part and everything, and then I can send you the fingerboard. So I have to think about, I have to talk with Min how much it would be. A lot of time inside, but I can do that. Never did it, but no problem. Why not? Hello, Edgar. If you made Retegi, if you made a ranking of things that can improve the quality of the sound of a viola compared to other aspects, which range would you give to the type and quality of strings? Top 10? Wow, this is a good question. The strings certainly are important, but if for me as a maker, the strings should be one of the very last things. And actually, that's something where the musician um, has at least the possibility to juggle and play and adjust a little bit. But certainly the strings do a lot. But as for me as a maker, there are more than 10 things which can be adjusted before using different strings. Okay. So probably for me, if I tried also to make once a video about it when the instrument is just finished, what I do, and then I took the instrument, but then the camera was too far and you couldn't see it. But let's say let's play the game that you give me an instrument and I have to double check now. Then I would take it. And the first thing I'm doing is just measuring. And so I'm measuring if the length of the neck is correct, where the bridge is standing, if it is in the correct position. I measure the length of the body of the viola, double check if the bridge is standing in the right length, double check the length of the strings, put the bridge in the right position, put it 90 degrees to the center line, exactly lined up, put it in the right and the best solution possible in the middle towards the center line, the bridge, which is another very, very crucial and important part. Once I did this, then I adjust the sound post in order that it is from the bass bar side on the other side, exactly on that line and the right distance. So I have to listen here. And probably while I'm doing all this, I'm also already measuring the distance of the tailpiece to the bridge. I'm measuring also the heath of the lower nut. And certainly I'm double checking the fingerboard and the neck, how I put it in. Just the last video, I put it on the internet now yesterday at 8 o'clock in the evening to double check if the neck is correct. And ta 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 ta. And then certainly what I'm also before I would just change now strings, I would probably change or work a little bit on the bridge. It's probably also a sickness of violin makers that you're never happy with what other makers did before that. But I would probably measure very tough on the bridge and see if I could use that bridge which is on just to apply all my things, how I think how it should be, how wide are the feet, and how thick the bridge is, how thick it is on the upper side, if the arching is nice, if the inside is worked properly in order that they make it a little bit lighter but not too light. And I try to readjust the arching. If it is warped, I will make it straight. And then I would see how about the fine tuner, what kind of fine tuner is on. certainly also the kind of setup which is on the viola itself, if it has a wolf tone on the A string, if it's better ebony pegs or boxwood pegs, things like this. And then certainly then at a certain point, then you get out of every instrument a certain character, and then you can certainly underline a certain character or go a little bit away from that character towards a different character with changing strings, but you cannot make out of one string mantegazza and with another string a testore viola, let's say, okay? So it's just an additional thing which you can do, but it's probably one of the last things which I would use to adjust the sound of the viola. Okay. Mm. Tom Chan. Hi, Tom. Back again. Hi, Edgar. Good to see you. Hi. How is your shop? A good question. I don't know. I'm a little bit anxious. I'm hoping that the plants in front survived because today it's raining, but for a long time it didn't rain, and there's the bamboo outside and things like this. But one of my staff always passed by when she went to the supermarket, so I hope they got a little bit of water and still alive. And then we will do our best things on Monday to make it happen that it's all great in order that we can work with certain distance and cleaning stuff and all this. Yeah. Horachi-chan, hello, Mr. Edgar. Hello, Mr. Edgar. Why my fingerboard goes down and how to fix it? Well, this is now a good question. It's a question, is your fingerboard going down because the instrument you're having right now is completely new and it just came from abroad? Let's say I faced a lot of these problems at the time with a violin shop from Minneapolis, and this owner, the lady, she complained a lot with me because I sent her my instruments and I didn't respect her specs, how they call it, you know. Now, it's pretty tough for a maker to take something from Germany in the white, get the instruments to Cremona in the white, a cello, um, work on the instrument, treat the woods, so that means you have to make it a little bit humid in order that you can prepare it, varnish the instrument, make the fingerboard, glue it on, do the setup, pack everything in Cremona, which is completely different climate than in Germany, and then from there send it to Minneapolis, which is in winter so dry that I still remember that when I was there, that my lips were cutting because of this freezing dry weather in winter. And then certainly the instrument is yeah, yeah, going up and down. So you have a difference of the bridge on a cello of 5, 6 millimeters even. I have customers in China who have my master cello. In wintertime, it's so dry that they cannot play at all. The string is completely lying on the fingerboard, okay? So much is the difference. So this is normal that because it is made out of wood, that the whole thing is moving. And in case it wouldn't move, then it would break and it would crack and things like this. So I'm glad your fingerboard is moving as it should, but it's certainly disturbing a lot. And it's caused because probably the instrument is moving. So if you're now, let's say, in a environment like I'm always saying Singapore because that was for me over the year always humid, and necks are all going down, 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 down. So at that point, if I know that there's an instrument which goes to Singapore, I try to send them already instruments with a higher neck angle, so then it comes down, 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 and then sooner or later will be quite okay. And after a few years, then it's getting stable. Okay. So this is what you can do. If it is now too dry and you're in air condition, then I would suggest that you put something wet into your violin case, a slightly humidified rag, or this damp it, or just don't soak now your instrument, but it's just the humidity. So get into something which shows you the humidity and try to keep it humid. If it is not this, so then it is the opposite way. So then try to get it dry. So then put some rice in a cotton bag inside, so it takes a little bit the humidity out. Okay. I also had some instruments with a lot of moisture inside, and it's depending on your situation. But probably if you are facing this problem, all other people who play and you know who play are facing the same problem, and I think it's best to listen a little bit around how they can solve it. Okay, but it is actually normal, but certainly extremely disturbing. Yeah. Mm. I hope this is a good question. Zeno, Zen, hello from Rhode Island, United States of America. Vielen Dank für das Teilen Ihres Fachwissens. Bitte, bitte, gern geschehen. Das freut mich, dass Sie daran Spaß haben und aus Rhode Island das hier alles anschauen. Sehr schön. Hm? Then there is somebody from Korea. I can't read Korean, but I can see that it is Korean. Buongiorno from France. I love the cello. So she is probably playing on a cello from my workshop, very likely. Great. Mariel Joshua Taklob. Hello again, Mr. Edgar. I just want to ask, what is the best way to clean my fingerboard? Good question. Good question. All the all the cleaning material of what you can find for the instrument itself, but it could be that then it gets too oily under the finger. So, or you just take like a microfiber, put a little bit of water on the microfiber cloth, just a little bit, and also a little bit of soap, okay? And then just clean a little bit and then away and then dry it immediately. Soap and water, just a little bit, can make miracle. And at the very end, you just leave it like this and then you play and then it gets a little bit the, the grease of your skin and what you're playing, okay? If you want to have it really nicely shiny, you can certainly put some from olive oil to oil for the furniture on it, but it's just you have to stay very, very careful that none of this is getting on your strings. As soon as it would be on your strings where your bow is coming, it wouldn't work anymore. So it's better not to put anything on it. Just try to clean it. And as soon as you finish playing and you see that the rosin at the end of the fingerboard is on it, then you just get it away. Basim, another question. How smooth and soft should the fingerboard be? How smooth and soft? I compared my violin to another violin and found that violin fingerboard feels like glass smoothness. By the way, I'm from Saudi Arabia. Very good. Wow, Basim, you are from Saudi Arabia. Hmm. I just the softer, the better the finish is, the better it is, because then you can play without thinking that there is the fingerboard. You don't want to, yeah, it should be as smooth as possible. Yeah, when you work on it, or you go to a maker and the strings are off, just tell him invest 10 minutes more and get it finished nicely when the strings are off, and then it's easier. Or when you clean it very nice, and just with a dry rag. This is the best, I think so. Retegi, thanks for your answer. You're welcome. Sastakovich, I learn a lot from your videos. This is very good. I'm happy that you're learning a lot. Thank you for sharing your big knowledge, Edgar. You're welcome. Horace, thank you. You're welcome. Terry Vaughan, hi. What is a good humidity range for violin? The best humidity range for violin is a very constant humidity. And it is rather better to have it more humid than less, but not too much. So now, what is now? What I would say a great humidity range would be between 60 to 80 percent. This is on these measurements. This is something I would consider. This is already rather humid for some people in some areas, but wood is cracking only if there is not enough humidity. As soon as there is no humidity, the wood is starting to work very strong. Just imagine that you put a piece of wood into the sun and it is just drying and heating up, and yeah, and this is no good. Okay, so you don't want to dry under the sun, or completely dry is not good. Too dry is creating actually more problems than too humid, which doesn't mean it has now to swim somewhere, but it's always better to have it a little bit more humid than too dry. Okay. I think this was a very good session here, and even time-wise, we are really good here. It's 16:50, and this is great. So then it's 52 minutes here. And I think this is a very good moment that we are coming to an end. At least I don't think there are some new questions. No. So I want to take this time here to thank you very much. On Monday, I'm back in my workshop, and I will certainly try to do my best to continue these uh, on live streaming sessions. I think it's a good opportunity to stay closer to people who need some problem solving. And I will work out a way to make it happen. It certainly takes a lot of time. You wouldn't imagine, but it's kind of a little stressy, and it takes you some time. You have to prepare. You have to be ready. You have to think what is the next thing we can talk about, and so. Next week, I will make another one, or I will try to make another one, and I will talk about how to maintain your instrument, how to uh, keep it clean and things like this. A little bit we talked already today, but for other people who want to come, and then I will be back in my workshop so I can show you a few things a little bit better and closer. And my main concern is certainly that I'm a little bit preoccupied that my cell phone is still transmitting how it is transmitting right now with the 5G, and then the computer here on the Wi-Fi. And I had already other experience which didn't work out that great. I will work on it, and I will make it happen so that we can have a little bit a nice talk in the workshop as well. Okay. Stay safe, stay home as much as possible. We have to change all here for a little bit, and I will make it that I'm closer to you. Okay. All the best. Thank you for watching. Thanks for your comments. Bye bye. Tell your friends and subscribe. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao, ciao.